Hey y'all, happy Tuesday. It is Lemon Squeeze Tuesday. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am being accountable. I'm showing up because remember, my whole goal when I spoke to y'all last week was I'm going to show up every Tuesday for Lemon Squeeze Tuesday again. And so I am here for another Tuesday. I'm so proud of myself. So I get to brush my own shoulder off. So, hey, y'all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, what's happening? It's Tuesday, um, the top of the week, and so I'm hoping everybody had a good weekend and everybody is doing well. I am doing well. I cannot complain at all. So, I'm back for another um, Lemon Squeeze Tuesday. Hey, Tangela. Happy Tuesday. I hope you're doing well. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, y'all. So, I want to get started because, like I say, I want to try to keep the lemon squeezes as short as possible. 30 minutes, less if we can, no more than I don't know, but 45 minutes maybe. But I definitely don't want it to be long and drawn out. I want to get to the point, and so I really want to just kind of jump right on in. If you can share the live, like that would be good. I think it's a good word for us today. Um, so I would love if everybody could just send it to somebody at least, share it in your networks, let them know we here, and that would be really good. I'm gonna share it out real quick to myself, um, so that people know that we're on. So I hope everyone is doing well. Once again, um, I would like to just have everybody check in. So if you're here, just give me a little hey, hey, hey. That'll be good. And if y'all know from last week, I kept saying I'm gonna make sure that I hold myself accountable. I used to do the lemon squeezes every Tuesday, and then you know how life just happens sometime, and you end up getting off track. But we find our way back, so that's the most important thing, that we find our way back, and we keep going. When you fall off the wagon, you get back up again, right? Um, what's the song? Donnie McClurkin, we fall down, but we get up. so, yeah, so I wanted to get back on and just start, really just talking about different wellness topics and really just kind of go in depth with a lot of things that contribute to our wellness as a whole. Um, I'm coming, y'all. So, yeah, so we're here. All right. And if you want my text list, I'm sending y'all a text. Now, see, this is when you doing everything or most things um, on your own. Sometimes you need just that backup to kind of catch your back. Because I should have sent an email too, but I didn't even think about it until just now. We had so many things going on today at the shop. So we had an event today for the grand opening of Retro Fitness Gym in Lauderhill. And so I got staff out there. The shop was open. We closed at 5. Um, and then we also hosted the Miami Dade Democratic Black Caucus to come in to the store and give out Harris Wilkes yard signs. So anybody who wanted a sign for their yard to put in their yard to, promote the Harris Wilkes campaign, you could have came by the store today between 3 and 5 and got you a what you call it, got you a yard sign. So that was happening today. So, just kind of spearheading things on multiple fronts. My daughter had basketball. It was so much stuff going on. So in between time, I decided, let me get up on here and let me go ahead and um, hop on Lemon Squeeze Tuesday. I was not going to pass up the opportunity because, again, I have to hold myself accountable because I do have a lot of good things to share and I want to be consistent in sharing them. And I want y'all to join me for the ride. I want y'all to be, engaged and, share as well because it pertains to all of us. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. Um, so today we're going to be talking about the power of rest. So for anybody who is new around these parts, my name is Fatia Doster. I am your juice coach. I'm the founder of Juice Defined. And what do I do? Not only do I help individuals reframe their idea of wellness, because a lot of times we think that wellness is we compartmentalize wellness and not recognizing that all things are interconnected. So it's not just, oh, I need to eat good or I need to get active or I need to, pray or meditate. Like it's all interconnected. And so there are so many different components of wellness that sometimes we just kind of glance over, not recognizing that this can also help us to improve our overall health. And so that's what I do. Just all about being able to help people just rethink or reframe the way that they think about what wellness is and what healthy is and what progress is. So that's what I do. And especially as a therapist, as well as a juice coach, like combining the two is super important to me. And so that's what we'll find most times in the lemon squeeze is I try to approach things from a mental standpoint as well as a nutritional or physical standpoint, with a little bit of spiritual as well. Because again, all of these things make up the holistic approach, and that's what we're all about. So, welcome tonight. Tonight, I really wanted to touch on the power of rest because this has been a thing that's been at the top of my mind for, man, I can't even tell y'all seriously how long it's been at the top of my mind. And the other day I had created a post that said, um, it said, hey friend, get some rest. And a couple of people, quite a few people commented and was like, oh, you talking to me. Oh my God, that's my life. Who life you know? And it's a key in the moment. But afterwards, I just really thought about it and I was like, oh dang, like the people need a word on the power of resting. Cause I think sometimes we gloss over the power in that. And that's what just kept coming to me. And, in the moment, it's just like, I know, girl, I need to rest too. I need to lay down. I need some sleep. And not necessarily fully processing what rest does for us and what rest does to us, right? And what rest really is. Tangibly, I'm guilty. Absolutely. We all guilty. Trust me, because as I'm speaking to y'all, I'm speaking to myself. And so that was really the main reason that it kept sitting on my heart. And I was like, oh, you know what? Let me get on here and not only hold myself accountable to lemon squeeze, but hold myself accountable um to processing through what the power of rest really means. And so we say it every day, we speak it every day, but are we actually living it? And so that's what I wanted to just kind of bring today. So, I was thinking about the power of rest, and I'm just like, you know what? We know that rest is necessary on a number of levels, right? And the first thing that we think about when we think about rest is what? You name it, sleep, right? But I also wanted to kind of approach it from a holistic standpoint. And so that meant, digging through some resources, digging through some readings to find out, okay, well, if I'm talking about rest, like how can we talk about more than sleep? Because that's usually the first thing people associate with rest. Like, I need to get some sleep. And our first thing I did, of course, like first go to is like, dang, what the Bible say about rest? You know what I mean? Like, you want to know, what kind of guidance or what kind of guides can I go to? Because that's the number one thing. If anybody here is in higher education, or if you're just a learner by lifestyle, then the first thing you want to do is you want to read, you want to research, you want to, kind of think about, what does this mean on a deeper level? You know what I'm saying? Not just the surface thing that I can think of off the top of my head. And so the first Bible verse that I had came across was Matthew 11, 28 through 30. And it says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Right. And so, just kind of sitting with that for a moment. And also Genesis 2, 2 and 3, it says that God rested after creating the heavens, the earth and the sea. And so, you start thinking like, dang, when you think about even the mention of rest in the Bible, like, this is more than just, okay, I need to get some sleep or I need to just lay down, right? Like, when you even think about how the Most High, or the Creator, has included rest from the beginning of time, or as far back as we can think, rest was a thing, and it was obviously necessary, right? And so I went, took it a step further and, started pulling some other resources. And I found a book on rest called Rest is Resistant and Resistance. And I started digging deep. I'm like, dang, okay, I can see rest as being a lot more than just, I need some sleep, right? And so I also, pulled some verses from the Quran too, right? And it says, the Quran says, "And made your sleep a source of rest." So obviously that's like the straight and narrow, sleep, right? Sleep is a source of rest. And so I'm like, okay, well, what else? What else are we looking at? And I also seen where it said, "And among his signs is your sleep by night and by day, and your seeking of his bounty. Verily, and there are signs for those who hearken." And so this just kind of gave me a different viewpoint about what rest really is. And so, hey Steph, hey sis. um, and so that, and I just heard of that book. I do follow the Nap Ministry, but I guess, when stuff don't really pop up or generate on your timeline, you don't necessarily see it. So I didn't even know that they had a book. And so when I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, like I ordered it. So it should be here this week. So I'm looking forward to reading that. But, after I read those scriptures and those verses, like the thing that came to me was like, oh wow, so really you see rest aside from sleep, pretty much like rest is resistant, right? That's the title of that book. But I could see where it came from, even if I didn't read it yet. I could see where that came from, right? Or rest can be radical, right? When you think about like the book Atomic Habits, and how Atomic Habits really speak to like the things that we make a habit, or the things that we practice day in and day out in small increments. It don't even have to be like a gigantic change or a thing, but the things that we practice day in and day out make, they produce radical change. So starting from like, and when you think about rest in terms of being radical, it's just kind of like, if I'm able to, you know, make this a daily practice, how much more well would I be? Right? Like, what type of radical or drastic change would I see if this was implemented in small portions every single day? Right. Then I'm thinking like, okay, rest is revolutionary, because when you think about, whether you're the busy entrepreneur, or you are a mom, or whether you are, a father, or whether you work a 9 to 5, and whether whatever you do, right? Rest is crucial to your performance, right? Like, rest is crucial to your performance. So when you think about rest being revolutionary, it's hard for you to go out and be dynamic on whatever task you're doing if you are not well rested, right? If you're not well. Now, some of us, we might be able to skate on by. I'm sure we've been doing it for a long time, but that's not true wellness when we running on oil or fumes. I'm sorry, when we running on fumes. Thank you so much. I just seen JD being a Vendetta retrofit today. Yes, we on so many fronts today, so I'm grateful for that. I'm so glad you liked it. And so then I think about rest is raw. Like, it's almost one of the purest forms of rejuvenation, right? One of the purest forms of um of wellness, because it's a critical component of it. So without that, there is no wellness. So that's as raw as you could get if you don't have that one ingredient. Because remember, I said earlier, like what um we compartmentalize what wellness truly means. And so if we're not compartmentalizing and we're looking at all aspects of what wellness is, we can't forget about rest. That's a raw component to wellness. Um, Rest is real. Without it, like, I mean, you could just imagine without rest, how can we survive? You know what I mean? Like, that's a critical component of us being able to survive day to day. So that's kind of self-explanatory. I got the hiccups, y'all. Sorry. Then, you're thinking about like rest is healing. So then I'm thinking about that from an internal standpoint and external. So, if we don't rest, our body don't have an opportunity to heal. Our bodies don't have an opportunity to do what it needs to do, because whenever we sleep, that's when our body does the most healing and the most rejuvenating. So all of those things, I'm like, well, what is rest? Like, that's a simple question. What is rest? But then when you got boom, 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 all of these bullet points about what rest is, it just broadened your idea of what the true meaning of wellness is. Rest is resistant. Rest is radical. Rest is revolutionary. Rest is raw. Rest is real. Rest is healing. And all of these things hold true for all of us on some level when you really think about it. And so I'm like, dang, okay, like I feel like I'm getting somewhere. You just really start to think about things in great detail versus, again, just that surface idea of what we just think off the top of our head. But when we really start to process what certain things mean, it gives it you approach it from a whole new standpoint. So rest is all of those things. And it could be more. If I'm leaving out some stuff and y'all think about something, y'all put it in the chat. Hopefully I could see it, because I feel like I'm not really seeing the chat. But if y'all can, if you have any ideas on what you think rest is, feel free to share them. And we can, have a little conversation in the chat about what rest is. But that was as I started to pull back the layers, that was my immediate idea of what rest is. It's not just I didn't even mention sleep in there, y'all. So when we thinking about it from a deeper understanding, sleep don't even come up, right? Because what is sleep, right? We'll get to that, but basically, like, what is, hey Rashad, what is rest in its totality and not just that surface level. When we thinking about how we moving as a society and as a culture, like the hustle is real, and it is, don't get me wrong, but the hustle is real. Like, again, I don't care what kind of position or job you do, you on the go. It requires you to be present. It requires you to be moving. It requires you to think. It requires you to, it requires you to be in relation with other people most times. When we think about this whole political culture and the way that things are going now, is election season, and all things politics involved, it's nonstop. You turn on your TV, you turn on your radio, you turn on your you pick up your phone. It don't matter what you do. You gonna see Trump, you gonna see Kamala, you gonna see Kamala, sorry. You gonna see it. It ain't no escaping it. So it don't matter, what ends of the earth you go to when you talk about poverty culture or poverty in general. What is the main thing when it comes to poverty? It's like you gotta grind, you gotta hustle. Y'all heard that saying, you don't work, you don't eat. Like there is always like this get up and go dynamic with anything that we're doing in this society. So nothing is every rarely is it about rest. Rarely is it about like let's stop and take a break. Rarely is it about, you know, sit down. It's always about go, 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 watch, 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 look, 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 do, like all the time. Sun up to sun down. And depending on what industry you in, it's overnight too. So it's always a go, go, go. And even when you see like disease and pharmaceutical and medical like the medical industry, like it's always like something being promoted for something, this pill for this or this, that for that. There's always like something consuming you, right? And so do you ever get a break? Do you ever get a place of refuge from just so many things coming at you all the time? We amplify busy culture, and sometimes busy don't even look like productive. Busy don't even look like we doing nothing. It just is you just moving and ain't accomplishing nothing. And I know that we done seen that. We see that. Like you could look to the person on the right of you sometimes and be like, damn, you always busy. But in 5 years, they ain't got nowhere. And no, I mean, whatever. I don't have to say no shade, but you get what I'm saying. You gonna be, people will be moving, 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 doing, 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 but don't really accomplish nothing because we glorify being busy instead of glorifying intentionality or glorifying rest or glorifying, being productive. And even that in the grand scheme of things needs to halt sometime. You know what I'm saying? And so in this society as a whole, it's really done a number on us. And I think especially, when we think about like olden days, and I know, my family, my ancestors or my family, couple generations back from Alabama, like, sharecroppers owning land, working fields, going to war, doing all of these things, but they still had a time to rest. When I think back to like my grandma, like spending summers with my grandma and them on their farm and stuff like that, we had a bedtime. They was not playing. It was like, yeah, you up all day running around doing whatever you doing. But when that sun go down, everybody get in here, get your baths, get on that floor or that mat, that cot, that couch or whatever, and you're gonna go to bed until the sun come up again, right? So I feel like even when we think back to like um times past, our ancestors understood the power of rest and what that meant. And now we have so many things at our disposal. What is rest? I ain't got time to sleep. I mean, I done seen brands that's preach that. Like, I'm asleep when I'm dead. Like y'all done seen that before. Like I know I'm not the only one, but you done seen that before where people will glorify being busy, glorify hustling, glorify just being on the go all the time. And it's just not practical. So I get it. Like you just want to make a bold statement and make some impact with your words, but it's not practical in the grand scheme of things. And nobody talk about that. Don't nobody talk about it. We'll gloss over it and just say, I'm so tired and still keep going. Ignored our own self, right? And so that to me, like, is problematic when we start to think about like wellness as a whole, right? We leave that part out. And mainly when we're talking about wellness, people really only talk about physical fitness and nutrition or diet. Am I right or am I right? Rarely do people talk about being still, and incorporating what that means, or resting and what that means. So that's why I was just like, okay, let me talk about that today, because this is yes, very trauma informed response. Sis, that's right. And it's like we just see what, even what our parents did, or just even what our current situation is, and we just act out of that, right? Or in reaction to that, and not necessarily um with the understanding of what we should be doing for the long term, and what's beneficial for us for the long term. So um I started thinking now, like, I seen a quote, and this was an immediate quote when I ordered the book, Rest is Resistance. And she said that rest is anything that allows you to connect your body with your mind, right? And remember, in the beginning, I'm saying it's all connected. So if one part, or one area of ourselves is not aligned with the other, then we start to see a lot of things, disease, ailments, imbalance, like a lot of things are thrown off. And so that made a lot of sense to me. Like, when we're talking about rest, it really is about making time to connect your body with your mind, right? And so I'm thinking, like, what are the different sources of rest? Like, what are the things that we can consider doing as rest? And so obviously sleep, like that was the first thing, right? Because obviously we have to sleep every day. Well, you should sleep every day, or every night rather, right? And so that is one source of rest. Okay. Obviously, when we're asleep, our body gets to relax. Um, a source of rest could be home. Like, if you have a home that you have created, that you're able to go to as a place of refuge, then that is rest, right? Um, yes, meditation. I was just about to, that's my next one. Okay. Meditation and stillness, right? If we're talking about our minds and our spirits being able to be aligned, it looks like meditation and stillness, right? What about fasting and detoxing? Y'all know that's my lane kind of right there. So fasting and detoxing, right? Physiologically, giving our bodies an opportunity to rest, right? So I thought of all of these things. That was only four. Them was the only ones I could think about at the time, and I ain't really update my little notes since then. But those are four ways holistically that we're able to rest. When you think about mind, body, spirit, we can rest in those ways. Um, so when you think about the sources of rest, it's kind of like, okay, I have all of these aspects that I can consider resting in, right? Hey, Sam. And so then I'm like, my juice is flowing now. So now I'm like, okay, well, I know that all of these things can be sources of rest, but how does it look in a practical way, right? And so when I say sleep, like sleep is the first thing that we think about in terms of rest, but sleep is more than a source of rest. But what came to me then was sleep is a divine gift, right? And so remember, I read those scriptures earlier, and that's what really brought me back to that, because it says that Genesis 2, 2 and 3 says that God rested after creating the heavens, the earth, and the seas. And then it says, Psalms 4 and 8, in peace, I will lie down and sleep. For you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety. Right. I also read for the Quran, and among his signs is your sleep by night and by day, and your seeking of his bounty. Verily, in that are signs for those who hearken. And so I'm like, okay, well, what happens like when we sleep? Like, what happened when we go to sleep? Um, our bodies, not only are our bodies able to do what needs to be done, right? But our bodies are able to repair, our bodies are able to recharge. But not only that, We dream when we sleep most times, sometimes, right? I don't know how many people in here are not dreamers. I'm not like an often dreamer, but I do dream at times. And so when I'm thinking about like sleep, the only thing come to a sleep is a dream. And people be saying that as a like, as shade, but let's be real. When we're talking about sleep as a divine gift, a lot of time those divine gifts come in the form of dreams, right? And so, we sleep because there is power in dreaming, right? Because a lot of times we get visions, we get words, we get, vision, direction. What comes in a dream? Sometimes it's not just a movie that's playing in our minds when we're asleep. Oftentimes it's a real word that's meant to steer the direction of our lives, right? And so, like, the Most High will speak to us, or the Most High will give us a vision or a plan, right? And really just allow us to see whatever the promise is, oftentimes through dreams. And sometimes we don't even have to be asleep to see those, like daydreaming, right? You don't have to be asleep to dream. However, keeping in the theme of what we're talking about and sleep being a source of rest, like, this is where oftentimes the Most High will come to us, okay? Or where we're able to, um, truly hear from the Most High, right? Um, so there's power in it. And when you think about it again from a as a divine gift, then we see like this is this absolutely is a source of rest, because not only if your dreams provide a vision or a plan or some type of vision or word, but then oftentimes it is a way to connect with the Most High. So sleep is a divine gift. Then we talked about home, and we're talking about, okay, well, home. Remember I said if you can, just kind of, if you have a home to go to, you have a place to recluse and retreat. Home is usually that. Home is where the heart is, and that's another saying, right? Like all of these sayings, home is where the heart is, right? Because home is where you have safety most times, and home is where you have security. I know in my house, I'm like, sometimes you be like, I can't wait to get home, because you can, it's your own space. It's where you feel safe. It's a place that you've created in your own image and in your own with your own vision, so that you can feel relaxed and you can truly feel, you can truly feel at peace, right? And to be honest with you, like these days, having a home is a blessing and it's a luxury. Y'all know how much homes cost out here? Homes is they trying to beat you over the head. Some people, you look at the times we living in. And for real, like having a home is a true blessing, because the price of rent, interest rates coming down a little bit, but the price, just the price of real estate nowadays. So when you think of home, yes, home is where the heart is wherever you make it. But in for this context, it's about where we able to retreat to when we need a rest or a break from the outside world. We all dream nightly, but there are different stages. Yeah. Oh, come on, Tangela. I ain't going that deep in it. I didn't go that deep in it, but you're absolutely right. Um, so yeah, home is that safety and that security, and that just kind of allows also for some sense of stability. When you have stability, when you have safety, when you have security, guess what you got? 9 out of 10. You got rest. Just think about it. Wherever you are and you feel safe and you feel secure and you feel stable, you able to rest. Get efficient rest at least, right? So that is also like, when you think about home as a source of rest, it's for those reasons. Like home is where that stability resides. This is where, you can plan for a legacy. This is where you have the opportunity to, expand your vision, to plan your vision out, right? Um, and that provides a source of rest, right? Um, then we talked about meditation and stillness. So meditation and stillness is another aspect or another source of rest that we can utilize, because obviously meditation really is the quieting and the stillness of the mind. When you quiet the mind, the body will follow. And so if you're able to find time to be able to meditate, or you find time to be able to be still, right? Oftentimes your body responds to that in a positive way. Your body can relax, right? It's all in the mind. So when you think about different types of meditational practices, whether that looks like, breath work, or whether that looks like affirmations, or whether that looks like just sitting silently, or whatever it looks like for you, like oftentimes, right, the body will also relax once the mind is relaxed, right? And that provides rest. That is a source of rest. Um, in stillness, we can hear. I'm going back again to what we were talking about earlier about a divine gift. But, sleep is also, in stillness, we can also hear, because whenever, we're out and about, finding peace within, absolutely, Tangela. And that's it. That's what meditation and that stillness is about. You finding that peace within yourself, right? And so, when you think about being out, out and about, moving all the time, being busy, hustling, and all the things, like, you don't have time to sit still. You don't make time to sit still, right? And so when we're still, we can hear the Most High. We can hear ourselves, okay? Like our higher selves. We can hear, we can hear from others, right? Oftentimes when we out and about and we on edge and we ain't got time and we running, there is we miss opportunities to hear other people, right? Like, or listen to other people, because we can hear all day, but are we able to listen and process and absorb what's being said? Same thing with the Most High. Same thing with listening or being able to hear ourselves think. We can fully process the fullness of our thoughts when we're able to sit still. So that's super important. But that breath work, when I say breath work, single-handedly does wonders for me. Single-handedly. If I can just find, and matter of fact, I have it on my alarm. And so I will set my alarm 3 times a day to just take, even if it's 30 seconds, to do some box breathing, or, to just sit and just breathe in and out, for 2 minutes, 30 seconds, whatever it is, right? Because that breath not only helps to calm the mind or help the mind to be still for a second, but it helps the blood circulate in the body. It oxygenates the blood so it flows better. And how else can you physically, right, continue to keep going? Blood has to be flowing, right? And in order to do that, either you're doing breath work or you're moving. And even when you're moving, it requires you to breathe. So this is also another way that for me, I find rest, even in the midst of a busy day. If I can take, a few seconds to just breathe, it does wonders for me. So I always recommend that to people, like just breathe. Just breathe. Even when you think about like when you get anxious or you feel, your emotions start to get really high. Like the first thing I will always recommend is that you breathe. Take a deep breath. Take a few deep breaths. Find your pace. And a lot of times that will physiologically that helps the body to calm down. So that's a really important part. I think a lot of times we forget how important, once again, all of these things work together. And so if we are, kind of um, compartmentalizing what wellness is, we're not going to think about breathing. We're not going to think about dreaming and breathing. And we're not going to be thinking about, meditation and sitting still. And we're not going to be thinking about being home and what home actually means for us in the long term. So there are all of these components that, when we allow them to work together, we can start to feel what it does for us, right? Rest wise. Um, The last thing I had was fasting and detoxing. And this was more or less more along the nutritional lines, but not only, right? And when we think about fasting and detoxing, often they can be used interchangeably, but sometimes they are, but they also can be very different. When we're talking about, like literally and physically and physiologically giving the body a break from um giving the body a break from the digestive process, giving the body a break from, anything that might be disrupting our healing process, um, giving the body a break from anything that might be disrupting us from being able to connect with the Most High or connect with ourselves, right? That can be considered a fast. So some people will always kind of correlate it with food, but it's not always that. Like you can fast from anything. So it doesn't necessarily have to just be food. It can be anything that can be a distraction from you connecting to your higher self or connecting to the Most High. So fasting is super important because already automatically it implies that we are disconnecting from the things that are prohibiting us from resting, prohibiting us from connecting or connection. um we talked about stillness, and so when we are abstaining from certain things, right, oftentimes it requires us to be still, right? When you start to remove certain things from your life for a period of time, right, there's a reason for that, there's a purpose for that. And so, stillness in the body produces stillness in the mind, and stillness in the mind produces stillness in the body. It's all connected. So then I think about detoxing and how that also amplifies rest, because when we're detoxing, oftentimes we're not eating any hard foods or anything that has the body working on digesting. It's literally giving your body a break from the digestive process. And if we knew how much energy it took the body to break down food, you would be amazed. And oftentimes that's half the reason why we can't rest or we don't feel rested. It's because our bodies are working overtime to be able to break down the things that we fuel it with or we think we're fueling it with. And fasting kind of gives you, or detoxing gives you a different approach to that, where you are, you're not putting so much on the body and you're allowing the body time to sit still. And when you're incorporating juicing into that, oftentimes juicing have all the nutrients that the body needs, and it absorbs in the body really quickly without having to digest. So that's an aspect that already allows our bodies to rest and take a break, because your body don't have to work on digesting new foods or things that we're feeding it constantly. It's allowed to kind of just relax and absorb the nutrients and still be able to energize itself based off the nutrients from the juice. So juicing, detoxing and fasting can be transformational, on a physical level. It can be transformational on a mental level, a spiritual level, but also energetically. So what happens when we don't have rest, right? The body and the mind will become like distressed over time. You get stressed out because when you ain't got no rest and your body is weary, your mind is tired, you just don't have no energy. The mind and the body becomes stressed out over time, and sometimes immediately when we don't have rest. It doesn't necessarily have to happen, over time. You can feel the effects of not being rested immediately. And what happens? You feel groggy or you feel fatigued over time, right? And that leads to emotional instability. It's hard to manage your emotions when you're tired because everything looks like something else. Anybody ever heard that say? I've heard people say before, like, I'm so tired, I'm delirious. Delirious is emotional instability. Delirious is, and it can also be physically unstable, physical instability. Because if you delirious, you can't see, you can't move, you know, like, so it can be debilitating. You can't focus. There's a lack of focus when you're not rested and you don't have rest. It's hard to focus on something and really absorb information and process information, regurgitate information, remember anything if we're not rested. We feel it in our bodies, tension in our shoulders, in our backs, in our legs. We feel the tension everywhere when we're not rested. Our immune system suffer. Our immune systems will literally weaken when our body is not allowed the opportunity to rest. And what happens? Our bodily functions start to suffer too. Today I celebrate 4 years with a kidney transplant, of my kidney transplant. My kidney's name is Bean. So happy fourth birthday to Bean. But I'm all often reminded of, what being fatigued and delirious feels like when your bodily functions are not functioning properly. I don't wish that on nobody, you know, or when you have to have a machine actually performing um, certain tasks or duties that certain bodily organs are supposed to do. That's a different kind of that's a different kind of tired. That's a different kind of fatigue. That's a different kind of weak, right? And so oftentimes in those situations, like, rest is the only thing you can do. So I'm often reminded of those times and how, the lack of rest will often impact our bodily functions, and it impacts our immune system. You ever seen somebody just sick all the time? And I'm not even talking about like chronic illness sick. I'm talking about like colds and flu symptoms and, all the time, weakened immune systems. So based on what we're fueling our bodies with, but it's not only that, it's also the lack of rest doesn't allow for our bodies to strengthen itself. So in turn, the consequences of us not resting can be deterioration. It can be disease and most extreme death, right? Like, we already know that. So, all of these things combined over time can be very detrimental in the long run. And again, sometimes immediately as well, you know. So how can we rest? Like, this was starting to, like, I was getting tired of thinking, y'all. I say, let me get to the crux of it and what we can do to implement rest into our daily lives, and what does that look like? Carve out a day of rest. Number one, we got to be intentional about it. And I see a lot of times where, especially when you're working and you're moving and you got so many duties and tasks and you wear so many hats, you don't carve out time to rest. And I'm literally talking about, like, if you got to put it on your calendar, put it on your calendar like an event, because it is. It's necessary. So the same way you'll schedule that meeting with a potential business partner, you schedule your time to rest. And we talked about all the sources of rest and what those things look like. Make time for them. Make time for them. Okay. A lot of people recognize the Sabbath, right? So this is more from a religious aspect, right? Spiritual religious aspect. So if you honor the Sabbath, then you already got a God-given set aside day for rest, where you spend time with family. You don't work at all. You sleep, you plan, you dream, you do all of those things. You already have a day designated by the Most High to observe just for that. Take a day off of work. Take a day off of work. We when we first opened the shop 3 years ago, we was open 7 days a week. 7 days a week. I mean, it was brutal. And so after a while, maybe like after a year or so, I decided we're gonna close on Wednesdays. And for a while, I was skeptical about that because I'm like, oh Lord, we can't shut the shop down for a whole day. And I was like, well, we'll just do online, right? And so and I did that for a number of reasons on the business side, but then also just as a time to rest because we didn't have a day off. And so I say, we'll just do online only. And after a while, I was like, you know what, shut those. you know, let's get creative and think of some other ways that we can utilize Wednesday and still be impactful and still be available to a certain extent to our people. But that 7 days tore me down. I was like, oh my God, like 7 days a week. It was hard. And so I had to intentionally take a day off, like close down the store so that we could have an opportunity to rejuvenate and rest and do the things that we need to do in order to keep going. Right? Create a VIP day for yourself. Whatever that look like, whatever you like to do, whatever you enjoy, whatever it is that make you, feel some pleasantries, you want to carve out time for that. Create a day just for you. Because sometimes solitude is very important. Like some people don't like to be by themselves, but let me tell you something. When you start to connect your mind and your body and your spirit, being by yourself don't mean nothing. You crave it. Okay? Like I don't have no problems being alone. Right? Like, you want that alone time so you can have time to rest. I think about mental health day. My daughter told me school started in August. That was last month. And so after 2 weeks, my daughter was like, I need a mental health day every month. And I said, okay. I mean, it wasn't no pushback. I say, that's cool with me. And then we got to week 4 and she had already took out 2 days. And I say, well, hey, you already took out 2 days, so you don't get another day until October. Mind you, school started mid-August. So really, it was a month and a half that she got two. She, not even a month and a half at that point. It was like a month from the middle of August to the middle of September. No, wait, where we at? The middle of August to now, she done already missed 2 days and we just hit the middle of September. And so I said, you don't get another day until October, right? But that reminded me, like, as human beings, we have a certain awareness about ourselves. And even at her age, she's 14, but she recognized, like, I need a break too. And you know what? Ain't nothing wrong with that. I don't even feel no way about it. Yep, you do. So one day a month, create that mental health day. If it's just for you to sit and chill and be to yourself or relax or whatever you want to do with that day, but it's a time to give your mind a break from the monotonous of going, 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 going. You know what I mean? And so, sis, that's your needs. And so, we want to make sure that we create those days for ourselves. And it could be more than one day. I'm just saying, if you one of those people that have a challenge with taking a day off and relaxing and creating a day for yourself, then you absolutely should create a mental health day and put it on your calendar. I put that in bold with the exclamation points. Put it on your calendar. Because once again, the same way that you will put on your calendar, because I'm the kind of, I am busy. So I'm talking to myself as I'm talking to y'all, but if it ain't on my calendar, it don't exist. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. If it's not on my calendar, it does not exist because I'm always moving 100 miles a minute. And so if I don't put it on hey, listen, it been time stuff been on my calendar and I still forgot. If I don't put the alarm on, remind me 30 minutes before, remind me a day before. So this is how intentional we have to be about scheduling time for our bodies and our minds and our spirits to rest. Put it on the calendar with an alarm on it. Matter of fact, just set your alarm on I got iPhone. I don't know what Android's got going on, but on my iPhone, you could schedule a time for an alarm for whatever day you want it to alert you. and the time every day. And that's kind of like what I do, what I was telling you about scheduling the breath work and scheduling the meditation or prayer 3 times a day, every day, 9:45, 2 p.m., 9:45 at night. Those are my 3 designated times to just stop and be aware of what's going on at that moment. Take some deep breaths, say a prayer or whatever, but I'm taking a break. And it ain't nothing but a few seconds or a few minutes, but it's still worth it in the midst of a busy day. And we'll be surprised going back to, if y'all never read that book, Atomic Habits, I recommend that you check it out because he talks a lot about the power in those small steps. Those little steps that you take every day make for giant results in the, as you move on. So I don't care if it's 30 seconds, it's something. But if you do that every day, your body starts to recognize that. So you can't forget. It's almost like I'm so used to waking up at 6 a.m. Your body naturally wake up at 6 a.m. whether you got something to do or not. That's the same way that we are or have to be intentional about inserting rest and those other sources of rest into our schedule, right? That brings me to my last point, that we should be resting daily. Like this should be a daily occurrence. And because we went over all of the sources of rest, know that I'm not just talking about sleep. It's not just about sleeping. You can practice any of those other forms of rest because it still is considered rest. Androids have a lot. Kimmy, I ain't mean no harm, friend. I don't want no Android iPhone on here, okay? So, we should be intentional about incorporating that rest every single day, right? And so, again, when we prepare our minds and our bodies to to respond to life in a certain, that's a whole nother topic. That's a whole nother topic for another day, right? But ultimately it's about being able to um it's about training your body and your mind to do the thing. Sometimes when you no longer are intentionally doing it, your body stores this memory so that it automatically knows that it is time for this. But we got to put the work in first. Let's see. Tia, feels like it takes so much just to take those few minutes or seconds though, but I know it's necessary. Yes. But these are practical ways, Tia. Like if you literally put it in your alarm. And like I said, it don't have to be long. If you do 10 seconds of breath work, it's really impactful. If you do, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, and you build your way up. I never forget I was working at a drug rehab one time. And I would make them do meditation every time we had a group. And I did like 3 groups a day in an 8-hour shift. And every single group that we did, I required them to do 5-minute meditation, but we didn't start at 5 minutes. We started at 60 seconds because they had, there was already this preconceived notion like, I cannot sit still for 60 seconds. And I'm like, yes, you can. And you will. But with the practice of it, it became more of a habit. By the time I left that job, and I wasn't there that long, y'all, low key, they were like, can we do 10 minutes? Most of them, obviously not everybody, but most of them was like, can we do 10 minutes? Because they had gotten used to the 5. And that's how we had started to progress. So it's not about perfection. I do 3 times a day. My alerts say 3 times a day, but I'm not perfect. So there might be days where I only do it twice or I only do it once. I still get that alert though, which makes me aware. And that keeps me accountable to what I'm not practicing. It's all mental and it's all practice, right? It bring me to this modality that we use in therapy called dialectical behavioral therapy. And it speaks to different skill sets that we can literally use to implement certain, if we want to see certain behavioral changes. And so it's like this, I'm trying not to get off track, but it's this please skill, and the please skill speaks to how we treat our physical bodies, the practices of how we treat our physical body that impacts our behaviors and the way that we do things, not just, physically, but mentally, emotionally, the way that we're able to navigate challenges and life in general, just by this simple skill. And the please skill speaks to, like, you know you know physical illness. Oh God, don't quote me on it. I'm gonna research it. I'm gonna put it inside in the description box afterwards. But each letter of the please scale, PLEASE, speaks to a different aspect of how we care for our physical bodies that helps us to eventually make certain behavioral changes as we navigate life. And I'll talk about that later. But my whole point is, like, it don't have to be nothing major and long at first. Start small. And then you start to see those changes build momentum. And then you start to feel more positive and more confident about your ability to implement these things every day. So that's just one way, just to be practical about it. And remember, it's we talked about four sources of rest. So that don't always mean sleep, and it don't always mean we got to, stop and breathe and meditate. It could just be us sitting at home, in the safety and security and stability of our own home is also a form of rest. So sometimes we overanalyze it and overthink about it when we start with what we have. Okay. Um, and so, yeah, that's my question to you. Like, how will you rest in this season? How will you give your body and your mind an opportunity to connect for the greater good? I'm always thinking legacy, like legacy. What does legacy mean, and how do we create legacy? And oftentimes we associate that with money and wealth, and it's that too. Don't get me wrong, but it's also behaviors and mindsets that we pass down, that we pass around, not just pass down like to our offspring, but what we pass around to the people in our lives. So how will we incorporate rest in this season so that we're prepared for the next season? If we start to make it a practice in this season, next season, our bodies are prepared and ready for whatever next season bring for us. Um, how intentional will you be moving forward about resting? How intentional will you be about trying to implement certain practices? Try, don't try, do. How intentional will you be about doing? And I want testimonies. So this, I'm leaving this video up. I will leave it on YouTube. Really, for the most part. If y'all not following me on YouTube, follow me on YouTube. But I want testimonies, right? How rest has facilitated healing in your life. And healing is a wide scope of things. We think perfection. I'm not thinking perfection. I'm thinking about progress. How has resting facilitated healing, the process of healing in your own life? So, one of the last things I want to leave before I get out of here is that, when we experience all the external stresses of life, like all of those external stressors that we go through and we deal with on a day to day, it makes it even more important for us to take care of our internal. We have to treat the internal with extra care. We got to give ourselves grace. We got to fuel our bodies with the right thing. We want to be thinking and saying the right things too. That's going to encourage us to keep moving forward and encourage us to keep growing and progressing. The world is already batshit crazy enough. So it's important what we tell ourselves. It's important what we feed ourselves. It's important how we care for our internal selves. And internal, not only meaning physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, how we treat ourselves. So With that being said, if you have not considered doing a juice detox, do a juice detox with us. I think that that is one of um, the most practical ways to experience rest for our bodies. Doing a juice detox helps us, and we already kind of talked about this a few moments ago, but all of the things that juice detoxing could provide us, um, at the very top of the list, it provides us with extra nutrients so our bodies have what it needs in order to heal. It gives our bodies a break from the digestive process, but also helps us to reserve a lot of the energy we spend digesting food. So consider doing a juice detox with us. We have so many things to choose from. We had a 3-day detox, which is, the most standard detox that we have and that people usually choose. And that one is liquid cleansing for 3 days straight. We have our 7-day modified detox, which allows you to only eat fruits and vegetables, but drink juice as well. We also have our 21-day total body retreat. This is for the person looking to reverse chronic illness. This is the person who's looking for a complete and total overhaul of every organ in the body, um, balancing hormonal levels, being able to experience more mental clarity. The 21-day total body retreat is just for that one. You can also eat limited amounts of fruit and vegetables, but it's mostly juicing for 21 days. And then last but not least, we have our cleanse with intention 6-week intensive, which also includes things like the lemon squeeze, but more targeted from an actual curriculum that I created. So this is from all of my years of being a therapist, and a certified addiction professional, approaching the reframing of how we see wellness from an addiction standpoint. And not saying that you're addicted to anything, even though you may be, we all are in some capacity, but it definitely takes that approach because, again, it's about reframing the way that we think about wellness in its totality. So the 6-week intensive is just that. 6 weeks, boom, boom, boom. You get a lot of different benefits. You get lab work, so we test um, hormonal your hormone levels. I'm sorry. You also get one-on-one actual therapy with a licensed therapist, and then I come in and do more of the group coaching things, like here with the lemon squeeze, but just with our intensive group or cohort. And so I'm rolling that out. We have our first one for the fall starting September 23rd. And then we will also have another cohort starting in December. So look forward to that. More information on that. If you're interested, send me a DM or click the link in my bio. You'll be able to see information on the 6-week intensive. And if you go to our website, you'll be able to see all of the information on the other detoxes that I named, the 3-day, the 7-day, and the 21-day. Okay. So I hope y'all you know, found some valuable gems in this lemon squeeze. I felt super, super good about it. Like even when I was fleshing it out in my mind, I'm like, dang, this is good even for me. So this did provide me some sense of clarity and also like just some sense of resolve, because that's what we all looking for. Most times we looking for a resolution. And so I felt like this provided the start of that. So if you're looking to contact us, click the link in our bio. You could send me a DM. Y'all have my phone number is there. You could send me a text message if you have any questions as well. Otherwise, I'll leave the live up. I'll be looking for y'all testimonies on how rest has impacted your healing journey. And I'll see y'all next Tuesday because I'll be back again holding myself accountable for another Lemon Squeeze Tuesday with another transformational topic. Thank you, Steph. Thank you, Kimmy. All right, y'all. I'll talk to y'all later. Have a good night.